All right, so this week in Pax Day, we got monetization news and it has the entire community riled up. In addition to that, we also got some more information as to what is going to be changing for the world map in verse 3, as well as some teasers for what might come later in verse 3 or potentially all the way in verse 4 or later. And we also got the May monthly clan spotlight as well. We're going to talk about all of that and a little bit more. So hello and welcome back, all of you amazingly professional consumers of Pax Day and Pax Day related content out there. I'm Altari, the professional gamer, and this is another episode of the Pax Friday Review, the show where we talk about all of the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for Pax Day over the last week. Also, a very special announcement. This is episode 104 of the Pax Friday Review. And if my math is correct, that means this is officially the 2-year anniversary of recording the Pax Friday Review. I never would have imagined when I started recording these episodes every week that I would be doing it for over 2 years, that the audience would grow to as big as it has. And I am so incredibly thankful for all of the support that you all have been in watching my videos, subscribing to the channel, liking, leaving comments down below. And it's truly incredible to have the opportunity to share my passion for a game on a platform with a bunch of people, and it is just incredibly rewarding. And I would also like to make a special shout out to all of our channel members who are monetarily supporting this channel so we can improve the quality of the content that you get. So thanks to all of our prosumers, entrepreneurs, and C-suite executive consumers out there. We really appreciate you for all of the help that you've been and the support that you've provided to us over the last 2 years in recording all of these Pax Friday reviews. But all of that aside, we do have some monetization stuff to talk about in Pax Day. We're going to head over to playpaxday.com to talk about it. I will see you right over there. All right. What a better week to talk about monetization and all of the things to do with it than the 2-year anniversary of the channel. Such an awesome opportunity because it is such a dividing subject, it seems, in the Pax Day community. So we're going to talk about it. Now, playing Pax Day without a subscription is the name of the post, and I think this is because the developers are trying to show that Pax Day is a game that can be completely playable without a subscription, and they want us to know it, and that's where they're leading with that. But either way, let's talk about the nitty-gritty here. So with verse 3, we are going to be getting new spawning zones. You can see an image of one down here, and each spawning zone is going to have 2 key features that are associated with it. Firstly, we're going to have the kind of basic level of crafting station for all of the different crafting stations available. And then in addition to that, we're also going to get altar specific storage for our accounts at each of the Petra days. So theoretically, you could go to multiple Petra days in multiple home valleys and be able to store your material in there. And in fact, one interesting thing, which I'm going to try and zoom in here, even though the picture quality is going to be semi-bad, this appears to be the image of an altar as well. So this was something that I was excited about because altar gameplay is something that we know is coming too. So hopefully this is an indication that we'll be getting more of that as well. Now, the purpose of these new spawning zones existing, I think, is one, it's going to help with the early game experience for players as they are coming in. 2, it is also going to provide players without a subscription, meaning without plots, because spoiler alert, the way that Mainframe has basically advertised their game since early access, but like if you go to the Steam page and scroll down, the first thing that is mentioned as you scroll down about Pax Day is that after early access, the game will be based off of a subscription model, and that when you are paying for the game, you are paying for the game plus access to the plots for whatever level you unlocked for the duration of early access. And then that's it, really. You might get some extra time or something like that, but they hadn't whittled it out. We'll talk about that a little bit down the line, but I know there were actually a couple of viewers who came into the comment section of one of our last videos, and they were talking about how this was something that was not communicated to them. However, I do feel like a lot of the communication, if you just scrolled a little bit on the Steam page, and a lot of the initial kind of marketing that was done for Pax Dei explicitly said, eventually the game is going to have a subscription model. However, they do want to allow players to play for free. That's what most of this article is actually talking about, is what is that free-to-play experience for Pax Dei? And that's what we're going to talk about now. So playing without a plot. You can play without a plot, but that does not mean you cannot build. You can go and join a clan that has access to other plots, and then you can build on your clan's plots, for example. You just won't be able to control that plot. Ultimately, the plot owner controls the plot. So if they wanted to delete all of your stuff, take your chests, do all of that, they absolutely could, because it's not your plot. There is definitely something that you are missing out on without having a plot, because you don't have that ultimate security that if you put something on your plot, then it is yours and no one can take it, delete it, remove stuff from private chests from it or anything like that. In addition, the recent introduction of the gold economy is going to enable players to buy gear and consumables from other players without having to craft things themselves. It is also worth noting that currently crafting stations don't have permissions on them. So theoretically, you could go anywhere in the world, find the highest tier crafting station on someone else's plot, and use it to craft. And you can use the gold economy to procure all of the various resources that would be required to level up that crafting as well. Now, obviously, that's not going to be a very optimized path, because you're going to be reliant on other players selling raw materials on the marketplace consistently to be able to level up. And we all know how long and how grindy Pax Dei crafting leveling can take. But then lastly, the Pax Dei spawning zones will offer limited individual storage. So as a player without a plot, you don't exactly need to worry about having a private chest somewhere. One thing that I always tell our clan, because we specifically have a very low limit to how many private chests can exist in our clan, I have had basically one chest, and it wasn't even private, and it's existed on our clan, and we have over 50 members. And not once, actually, that's not necessarily true. One time over the entire duration of early access, so almost a year at this point, only one time was something removed from that box, and it was actually available and open to clan, and that was because someone saw a bunch of trash gear and they thought to throw it away because we had better stuff, when in reality it was just my gear. But if you have a clan of people that you can trust, playing without a plot is going to be very, very easy, incredibly easy for most players. Now let's talk about premium membership. For those who don't want their own, who do want to own their own personal plots, we introduced the premium membership program. It will offer several entirely optional subscription plans. Premium members will enjoy various in-game benefits that they're still working on finalizing, but one of the bigger and most important details of that is the ability to claim and maintain in-game plots. Part of this is also because there is a cost associated with each plot that exists in game. That is actually potentially, with how Mainframe has scaled their servers, every plot that you place is probably attributable to a certain amount of RAM that exists on the server itself. I feel like that is something that mainframe would do. So when you're paying for a plot, what you're really doing is you're paying for the marginal cost of the server usage with probably some extra added fee so mainframe can actually make some profit from it. But in reality, you're really just covering the costs of them being able to host a server that's juiced enough to be able to contain all of the crazy builds that we come up with. Either way, purchasing Pax Dei just in the early access form, you are going to be granted 1 month of premium for whatever the tier that you have. So if you have the 4 plots, you're going to have those 4 plots as a free 1 month premium membership when the game finally does launch, which it's supposed to launch sometime this year. And that's pretty much what we're talking about. But in addition to that, they also wanted to mention the plot experience, and something that they had been talking about is what happens when a plot expires, because clearly right now plots aren't expiring. Everyone just has infinite amount of time on their plots until it's wiped. In the release state, when subscriptions become activated, the game is going to put your plot into a frozen state if you didn't re-up your subscription, or you didn't auto-renew it, or what have you, or you canceled it. And once it's in that frozen state, it's going to lock down the permissions and make it so it can't be edited. No new building pieces can be added, while people with access can still destroy pieces and interact with the crafters and containers. So the reason for this is very actually smart on mainframe's part, because if you have a clan member who just kind of disappears off the face of the earth and their plot is now just gonna poof, what this allows is it allows the players to go in and reclaim some of that stuff. If it's been set to clan, they'll be able to do it. Now, obviously, if it's been set to private, I don't think you'll be able to go in and claim the stuff that's there. So it's only a limited benefit if they do have a private plot, but something's better than nothing. In addition to that, they also mentioned that when a plot goes frozen, or when it's coming down and no longer has the subscription associated with it, in the future, they're going to try and provide a plot management system that you'll be able to go and just replace or refill that area. It is also worth noting that the developers have said that they're working on ways to improve the plot placement functionality so that there's not those tiny little holes that exist in between plots, like a lot of different clans have to deal with, and just small player groups or just solos who have multiple plots. So there's that. Will there be some kind of very obvious notification if a clan plot will become inactive? So currently only the plot owner is going to be notified. I probably has something to do with privacy concerns with their subscription ending or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe it's just too hard to communicate that to everyone. But either way, once the plot enters a frozen state, it's going to be clearly visible. It's probably going to change color when you are looking at it. It'll show up like, I don't know, whatever, purple or something like that on the UI when you go in to look at it with a hammer out. Will there be, is there a way to claim friends' plots if they become inactive or transfer between players? The transfer between players one is interesting. So I do think that is going to be coming with the UI features that will allow for plot management. Will clan permissions for plots be reworked? Yes, they already said that. And then for premium membership, will there be an option to pay for a friend's plot? So for that, gifting plots, it's not going to be initially available, but they said it's something that they'll definitely consider if there's an appetite or there's a lot of interest in it. Will I need a premium membership to build? We already answered that. You won't need to have a premium membership to build. You can build on anyone else's plot that has given you permissions to do so. When does the free month of premium membership at 1.0 actually start? Can I choose when I activate it? So once we exit early access, it's when that premium month is going to start. You don't get to just pick it. It's just granted the first time that you log into the game after release. So if you're going on a vacation around the time that Pax Day releases, don't log in before you leave and then spend 2 weeks on a cruise somewhere in the Bahamas and then come back and be like, what the heck? I just lost 2 weeks of game time for nothing. Don't make that mistake. Will I require a premium membership to access the market system? So no, you will be able to. In fact, they want you to be able to access the market system because non-premium free-to-play players are going to be essential in the economy, because I would imagine either between gold or grace, I think grace might actually become almost the premium currency in game that you might be able to end up paying for a subscription with, because there's that gold conversion rate right now. I don't know. It feels like they've mentioned in the past that just like Eve, they want to introduce something like Plex. And I know many players have varied opinions on that. Leave that where it is. I'd love to hear your opinions on it in the comment section down below about Plex and what happens if Grace kind of becomes that. Maybe it's not Grace, maybe it's something else, but I do think that they've already stated they want to potentially have a premium currency that maybe you'll be able to buy game time with or cosmetic stuff with and all of that. But obviously they don't want pay to win past being able to own plots, which at this point, I don't think you can argue that owning a plot is paying to win. However, I do think that being a solo player without any plots is going to be a very difficult task to achieve in Pax Day. You're gonna have a long path ahead to level up or do anything in that way, shape, or form. Are you concerned that making a subscription optional will open the door to bots and farmers? Basically, their response is bots and farmers are going to always exist, and they're going to do their best to quell any issues with terms of use and code of conduct violations. What about founders that have journeyman and master upgrades? As we exit, founders will automatically receive game access with their exclusive recipes, their character slots, and they'll also get a free month of premium membership like the original single journeyman, but with the corresponding plots, which we mentioned as well. So that is all that we have talking about monetization right now. Pretty exciting stuff. I know that the community as a whole is kind of split between it because some people just didn't understand that the game was going to be on subscription. Once it comes out of early access, it is going to be. You're not going to be forced to subscribe to the game. I think there is going to be a very easy way for you to be able to play the game without having to do that. But you are going to be relinquishing some control with regards to where you can build, if you want to build, and all of that. I also think with the altars now having storage, that there's potential for us to be able to link those storages because they're unique storages between each altar at the Petra Days on all the different areas. Maybe there's going to be some kind of grace expenditure for being able to expand that storage box or being able to access it from further away from a different home valleys, for example. Either way, very exciting stuff. Let's go hop over and talk about how verse 3 is changing the world now and what all of the map changes are going to look like. I'll see you over there. All right, so now we're going to talk about world changes coming with verse 3, Path of the Adventure. There's some pretty big changes with regards to maps. Instead of having 6 home valleys, we are now going to have 10. And what that is going to do is it's going to help, one, with being able to allow for more player population in the current home valley provinces. But then in addition to that, it's also going to, because the surface area of each home valley is decreasing, it's also going to increase the player density in each of these areas as well, so you feel more packed in. One thing I can confirm, if any of you have come and visited the Golden City, the chances of running into someone are way higher, significantly higher than just being off in the middle of nowhere. Building communities in Pax Dei is part of the game. It is a social sandbox MMO, social being one of those things. And when you have those communities of people, you create your own fun, but also it's just people to hang out with and be around. And having those strong local communities and cohesion also creates identity. And that's going to be really important for things like knighthoods and the parish system and the feudal system that's going to be coming into Pax Dei. Ideally, hopefully, before the game launches. Then we also have smarter wildlands. So because we have this expansion with 10, moving from 6 to 10 home valleys per home valley province, something has to give. Something is gonna disappear. So that's the wildlands. But what they said is previously vast and the wildlands are really big and open a lot of the times. They're slightly reducing them to concentrate that activity and encourage encounters that makes more exploration more meaningful. They also want to improve the balance of the biome distribution, and enemy camp placements are also being adjusted to ensure that there's a smoother progression and more thematic consistency as well. Enemy camp density is also significantly increasing, both in home valleys and in the wildlands. One thing that I do have a problem with enemy camps is that they do get in the way of places where you can build, and they become very, very annoying. So hopefully the density hasn't increased altogether too much in the home valleys, but we'll have to see. But the big one here is that with more home valleys per heartland, there's going to be more players that can actually place plots in a single server. In addition to that, it's important to note, and I talked about this during the last Very Professional live stream, that you're compacting the surface area, but we already know that Mainframe had and was expanding the number of plots that could exist in a particular home valley. So what that ultimately means is that more players are going to actually be able to settle and have their plots in a given home valley, which is pretty exciting as well. Then Pax Dei talks about a living, breathing world. The world of Pax Dei has never felt more alive or more mysterious. We are getting some revamped stone circles, the new Pax Dei starting zones. They also added crafting sites that are scattered throughout the world as well, which is going to allow for players to get repairs elsewhere. This is going to reduce the requirement for a lot of groups were making outposts around different dungeon entrances and all of that. I do think that these crafting sites are going to help reduce that. So you don't have, you shouldn't have to have a plot somewhere just to be able to repair. That doesn't seem right, especially with having to pay for those plots in the future. It seems like it's going to be shooting yourself in the foot in a way. So adding crafting sites and expanding settlement strategies and crafting hubs on top of the revamped Pax Dei will also add some small crafting sites and public crafting stations in the home valleys elsewhere, as well as the wildlands. What I do hope, though, when it says expanding settlement strategies, that's talking about larger communities, towns, and cities. I am interested in that and how they're planning on expanding those particular strategies, and ideally how they're going to create systems that bring players together in order to do that. In addition to that, they also mentioned that they're going to be adding new Inquisition sites, specifically these giant Inquisitor citadels is what they're called. But then they also mentioned foundations for future town sites, as well as these sealed cave entrances. And the reason why I find this interesting, so foundations for future town sites, that's going to be really, really interesting to go and take a look at, because we don't know what town sites are. I have a feeling it's going to be somewhere that us as players will be able to claim, and maybe there's a place where you can place an altar down. And when you do that, you get build control over a certain area, or maybe this is how the feudal system kind of starts rolling, and there's certain requirements in order to claim a town site or something like that. It's going to be really interesting to learn about that, and I have absolutely no idea what that is going to look like in the future. In addition to that, forests are going to be thicker, corrupted plains twist and tangle with new growths. Regions like the Scrublands, Whispering Woods, and Cursed Rocklands are also getting a quality pass, so they've been refreshed with deeper textures and make more moodier biomes. Grass is also going to be swaying in the wind again, so wind is coming back to the game. It's a breath of fresh air, some would say. And then also the Ancient Stella are going to become more naturally embedded in the terrain too. So you can see an image here of some of those vines that we were talking about. And then also down here, the new stone circles for I believe this is in the Whispering Woods, it looks like. But either way, then also they are reducing, again, making fewer steep cliffs, making for smoother travel as well, and improving road intersections to make that navigation better. I do think that some of this is in preparation for horses coming into the game. Some of those roads are really rough right now, and the generation is pretty tough, but yeah, I do think that it is important to have these updates as well. The one thing that I'm really starting to get worried about is this fewer steep cliffs section here. Steep cliffs are actually really good in my opinion. They make the game seem a lot more realistic. There's not generally these like low sloped, rolly kind of hills in the real world. I mean, there are some areas of the planet that do have that, but then there's a lot more that have sheer rock faces and mountains. They look scenic, they look cool. I really would prefer if we would go back to the original height that was way back when. We just need to learn how to not fall and die like a bunch of crazy people. Honestly, if you fall in a suit of armor going from over here down to here, you should not be alive. Like, let's just be clear. There's no reason for you to be alive surviving that. I digress. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that in the comments as well. But either way, the map is also getting a major rework. Carries and Mary are now going to be shifting and changing places. So now you're going to have Ancien, Carries, Innisgallia, Mary, and that change was due to needing some more space around the PvP zones. Maybe this has to do with town sites. I don't know. But as a result, the maps did change. Gate locations have changed in those maps as well. So, important thing to note, the actual map of the world is intrinsically changing in terms of where different provinces are in relation to each other. And then also they're improving performance, getting faster asset loads into all of that, fixing the floating objects and terrain glitches, as well as some other visual oddities. At the very end, they also mentioned that they're going to do some deep dives on the RPG system overhaul and the crafting evolution. So crafting is going to be a big one. I do think with the removal of the current primary relics, we're going to see a transition into almost what I think is a modular relic system. Back a while ago, we saw an image of a modular set of Inquisition relics, it looked like, where there were different neck pieces or attachment pieces, and then an outside circle, and then the inside medallion for all of the Inquisition relics. I think that maybe that's an indication that we're going to have to be able to mix and match these things, and they're going to help in creating different attributes based on what we mix and match with. Maybe we'll have to unlock and discover what those different combinations actually do. Either way, really excited for the RPG system overhaul and to learn what changes are going to come with that. I do think that it's going to include the armor smithing overhaul and tailoring and leatherworking, and really figuring out what the differences are between the light armor, the tailored armor, the leatherworked armor, and the armor, the plate armor and the metal armor. that's all that we have for this week. Hopefully you all enjoyed. This has been one of the longest PAX Friday reviews that I have recorded in recent memory, and I feel like it's only fitting. It is the 2-year anniversary. Thanks again for everyone watching. If you made it to this point, you are the real MVP of this channel. I didn't expect when I created this channel that we would get to this point with a small, modest viewership that really just enjoys playing this game. I hope you enjoy watching. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in learning more about Pax Dei. If you're interested in becoming a member to support the channel in a more monetary way, please, I thank you so much for that support. And thanks to all of our current members. Until the next video, I'm Altar the Professional Gamer. I'll see you in the next one.